Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's May 3rd. Today is National Garden Meditation Day. Forget about your troubles. Go to the garden. If you're not there already, feel the breeze or the sprinkles. Smell the rain. Look at all the signs of life around you, all the shades of green emerging from the ground. Listen to the sound of spring. Garden time is restorative and resetting. Use the hashtag Garden Meditation Day today when you post on social media. Here's today's brevities. Born on this day in 1863, Walter Elias Broadway, a Kew gardener and authority on West Indian plants. Broadway was recognized by King George V for his work in horticulture, although his career was shaded by bad blood with his supervisor, John Hart, and he had a drinking problem. In 1888, Kew sent Broadway to Trinidad and Tobago to take up the newly created role of assistant superintendent. Initially, everything seemed great. The islands were a tropical plant lover's paradise, and there was already a botanic garden and herbarium in place. All Broadway needed to do was launch himself into learning everything he could without having a definitive reference to guide him. How hard could that be? Along the way, his eagerness to get plant IDs from Kew and the British Museum led him to go around his boss. Well, it wasn't long before Hart required Broadway to funnel all of his specimens through him. Things deteriorated further when Hart ordered Broadway to devote his discretionary time to the garden, calling him in from his beloved field time and severely limiting his ability to collect new plant specimens. Broadway found other pursuits to bring him joy. He adored learning about the history of Trinidad. He found he loved to collect insect specimens. He helped found the Trinidad Field Naturalist Club. Despite Hart's limitations, Walter Broadway truly mastered the art of plant collecting. Broadway took the chance to get away from the day-to-day with Hart when the curator of the Botanic Gardens in Grenada opened up. It was there that he started collecting for private herbariums. It didn't make him rich, but it helped alleviate his frequent financial troubles. Broadway spent over a decade in Grenada before heading over to neighboring Tobago. By 1908, Hart had been forced to retire. Broadway resumed collecting with great zeal. He even sent mosses to Elizabeth Britton. He retired in 1923, and he lived his final years in Trinidad, the island that had stolen his heart. His devotion to the natural world never waned. Although A Flora of Trinidad and Tobago was published in 1928, Broadway wasn't part of it. That said, much of the work cited references Broadway. There was simply no disputing his collecting contributions. Botanist Andrew Carr described Broadway as an exceptionally fine man. He said, "I'll never forget his joy at discovering a new species of moss in a drain on Oxford Street. He was regarded, and justifiably so, as a walking encyclopedia on the botany of these parts." On this day in 1819, botanist and philanthropist Henry Shaw arrived in St. Louis. St. Louis had been founded over 50 years before Shaw's arrival, and the population by 1820 was just over 10,000 people. Shaw is commemorated on the St. Louis Walk of Fame with this epitaph: Henry Shaw, only 18 when he came to St. Louis, was one of the city's largest landowners by 40. Working with leading botanists, he planned, funded, and built the Missouri Botanical Garden, which opened in 1859. In addition to the Botanical Garden, Shaw built the Linnaean House in 1882. It's the oldest continuously operating public greenhouse west of the Mississippi, and it was originally designed to be an orangery, a place to overwinter citrus trees, palms, and tree ferns. On this day in 2015, all Saks Fifth Avenue stores simultaneously revealed their month-long May-Spring theme of glam gardens, and each store was transformed into a garden paradise. Today, Friday, May 3rd through Sunday, May 5th, marks the annual Valley of Flowers Festival in Florissant, Missouri. One of the oldest settlements in the state of Missouri, the Flowers Festival has been held in Florissant every year since 1963. In today's unearthed words, an esteemed son of Toronto was born on this day in 1904. Naturalist Charles Joseph Sariel, a one-man conservation powerhouse. Even as a teenager, he loved it, writing in an unpublished manuscript, "The perfume I liked was the smell of a wood fire. The dance floor I knew best was a long carpet of pine needles." In 1927, Sariel purchased a 40-hectare property at the Forks of the Don. He used this as a cottage, and every year, he, his wife, and their 4 kids stayed there during the summer. There were ducks, a goat, and a pet raccoon named Davy, who followed Sariel around like a dog. At the end of his first summer at the cottage in the Don Valley, Sariel wrote about leaving the place he loved. With summer's heat, the weeks sped by, and springtime streams did all but dry. But days grew short and followed on. Oh, blissful memory of the dawn. Of you we think with saddened heart. Our time is up, and we must part. Today's book recommendation is American Eden, David Hosack, Botany and Medicine in the Garden of the Early Republic by award-winning historian and author Victoria Johnson. Johnson will deliver the 2019 John Dwyer Public Lecture today at 4 p.m. in the Schoenberg Auditorium at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Johnson's illustrated lecture features her book American Eden, which both the Wall Street Journal and Ron Chernow have called captivating. David Hosack established the nation's first public botanic garden. Today, his former garden is the site of Rockefeller Center. For today's garden chore, it's another Photo Friday in the garden. In honor of Garden Meditation Day, bring your smartphone to the garden and take a panoramic photo of your favorite spot. You might have to practice doing this a few times, and if you don't know how, you can watch a quick YouTube video that's linked to in the show notes for help. Once you've finished, you'll have your favorite spot with you at all times, and you can meditate in your garden even when you're away. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. While researching Henry Shaw, I stumbled on a story that reveals Shaw's great love for the plants in his garden. It was posted in the St. Louis Star and Times on April 5th, 1933. Mr. Shaw was escorting a lady through his gardens, pointing out objects of interest. The lady said, "I cannot understand how you're able to remember all of these difficult names." He replied with a courtly bow, "Madam, did you ever know a mother to forget the names of her children? These plants and flowers are my little ones." Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org. And be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And while you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for The Daily Gardener Community on Facebook and request to join. And finally, a special thank you to my team at Podfly Productions, where my editor is Eric Begay. Have a great weekend in the garden, and we'll see you on Monday.